Welcome everyone. We'll just give it a few minutes to let people log in. Okay, so we've got a fair number of people, so we will make a start. I think there's a couple more joining, but we'll get started with today's session. So welcome everyone to this session about how to identify and cut cloud costs. We're going to be looking at how to streamline IT, cut waste, leverage automation, and have a more sustainable approach to technology. This session is hosted by B Executive Events, and our panel includes some expert speakers from OpenText. Just to remind you as well that this event is being recorded. We'll share a link to the recording via email after the event finishes, and we'll also ask you for your feedback if you have time to share that. That's really important to help us improve any of our future events. My name's Claire Agata. I'm the host for today's session, and we'd like to make it as interactive as possible. So as we go through the content, if you've got questions, please put them in the chat or use the Q&A function. And I'll keep an eye on that as Virgile and Joe are presenting. You don't have to wait till the end, although we do have some time for Q&A towards the end of the session. If there's something that you want to ask about one of the use cases or the scenarios that we're presenting, pop it into the chat and we will pick it up and we can deal with it then so that it's more relevant. We can also bring you onto screen if you prefer, but if you want to stay in the chat, that's fine. So let's make a start by introducing our two expert presenters. I'm really lucky today to be joined by Joe Debert and Virgile Delacolle. So Joe and Virgile, please start by telling us a little bit about yourselves.
Who's going to start? Virgile, you wanna start?
No, you already start. So
all right,
go ahead.
Let's maybe first mention that the fact that Virgile and I are wearing the same outfit is a complete coincidence. It's not OpenText uniform or anything.
Man in black, that's us.
Man in black, that's us today. Hi, everybody. So yeah, welcome if you're watching this live. Welcome also if you're watching this as part of the recording, played back. My name is Joe, been with the company for 20 years. I work in product management. I focus on various technologies for the group. FinOps is one of my core focus areas at the moment. So that's why I was invited here as a speaker today. So as I said, 20 years with the company. On a personal note, maybe the biggest event that happened recently is that I graduated. So I did my master's in computer science. So I'm also, after 3 long years, easing myself back into society. And that's what I'm up to these days, basically. So yep, that'll have to do. Virgile, over to you.
So I'm Virgile Delacolle. I'm based in Paris. I'm a principal solution consultant, so in the pre-sales organization, with a specific focus on FinOps, no surprise, and Green IT, because definitely there is a strong connection there. And yeah, hopefully I did my graduate a long time ago, so I can enjoy running almost every day. So I'm fine with it.
I'm a late player. Thank you. Does that work, Claire? Back to you for a second.
Fantastic. Thank you both very much. Really looking forward to hearing from both of you today. And just a reminder to those people who have joined us, we very much welcome your questions throughout the session. So if there's something that resonates with you, something that you want to learn a little bit more about, pop the questions into the chat and we'll pick them up as we go. I will be keeping an eye on those. So Joe and Virgile, tell us a little bit about what today's session is going to look like.
Yep. So we played with various ideas when we were playing this session. And at some point, my manager said, hey, FinOps is such a broad domain that touches many roles in the organization. Why don't you do like a use case oriented setup where you essentially pick the personas that you see on the finops.org website, and you basically talk about what does a day in the life of this persona look like from a FinOps perspective. And we said, hey, yeah, it's a good idea. So we started trying it out. And it worked really well. And we're actually now also going to use this setup for our FinOpsX booth at FinOpsX. So if some of you are going to FinOpsX, it's in the San Diego version. So that's coming up next month. You also see that at the booth, we're going to use the same stories and the same personas that we developed for this particular webinar. So you can see what prepping a webinar can lead to. So we'll have 5 core use cases around FinOps that corresponds to 5 personas. So we'll walk through them in a second. And then Virgil, the 6th use case, I think that's going to be mostly you. So if you want to stage that a little bit.
It's just the natural extension from FinOps to GreenOps, because sustainable IT is taking more and more importance today, and obviously it's also touching public cloud. What is still a bit a challenge, to be honest, with the cloud provider. So we'll see how we can help also in this area.
Yeah, perfect. And then as Claire said, if you have a question after every block, after every use case, we'll do maybe a short pause to see if there's any question that we can answer right away. And then I think how we have planned it is that we'll have a longer session at the end, so about 30 minutes where we can dive a little bit deeper into the more complex questions if there are any. So here are the use cases. So little game. So every use case corresponds to a persona at the bottom. So as we read through the use cases, try to map it to the correct persona. Just as a little exercise here. First use case, I need a consolidated view of the organization-wide cloud spend. So at the bottom, you can see 6 personas. So try to imagine a little bit which persona this use case would be most relevant to. Second, sorry, did anyone have a question? Okay. Second use case, I need to track cloud consumption for my department. So the word department kind of gives it away. I would say, so to kind of try to see which persona comes closest to a particular use case. Third use case, super easy because it has, we can't giving it away. My engineers, need visibility into their cloud spend and optimization opportunities. 4, I need to purchase the most effective cloud rate optimization assets. So cloud rate optimization assets, think savings plans and reserved instances. So we're hoping that all of you have at least a little bit of a FinOps basis, just so that when we mention these concepts, it sounds at least a little bit familiar. So that's use case number 4, and use case number 5. This one is a little bit specific. It ties into the proactive approach to FinOps that we also have at OpenText. So essentially, I need to give non-technical users, so think non-engineers, easy access to compliant cloud resources, and the word compliant is very, very important here. And then 6, there's the easiest one. So I need an overview of the IT carbon footprint across all the clouds. So that's obviously the first one in the list here. So every use case here corresponds to one of these personas. And as we're going to go through the use cases, we're going to basically dive into, like I said, a day in the life of this particular persona and see how they go through the motions of this use case with a FinOps product. And of course, today we're going to use our solution, so our FinOps solution, but it merely serves as an illustration of what a potential solution to this problem can look like. I would argue that with enough time, enough skill, and enough infrastructure resources, you could always implement your own FinOps solution, right? It'll take you some time, but if you have Python, Apache Spark, and maybe an open source BI solution, given enough time and resources, anything is possible. But what we're going to show you today is what an out-of-the-box solution can look like, and we're going to use ours. Now, because I'm in product management, I have access to certain features that are not yet in the current release. So I need to make a broad disclaimer for this webinar, since it is a conceptual webinar, right? But I'm going to show you features that are not in the product yet today, but that are being worked on for the coming year, so the coming calendar year. But as a broad statement, I need to say that not all the features that we're going to show are in the product today, but will be at some point in the near future, right? All right, Virgil, I think you wanna add here. You wanna pick out a certain persona, or shall we dive into the discussion about?
No, I think we can continue, and people will have the confirmation about what persona is linked to what use case through the demo. So, and again, thank you for sharing with us the latest and what is planned for a solution. As you said, people can always develop their own one. It really depends on where they want to focus on or invest their money. So But again, everything we will be touching is true and coming from the field, from the challenges we are seeing on the market. And this is why we picked those use cases for the illustration today.
Right. And yeah, hopefully, as you're on the call, some of these use cases, hopefully all of them will resonate with you. I think if you're a FinOps practitioner, all of them will resonate because you're the one that has to realize them throughout the organization. But it's also perfectly possible that you're on the call here as a CXO or as an engineering manager, and then of course certain use cases will resonate more with you. So when we were looking for like slides for like an intro, we said, okay, what slides are we going to use to introduce FinOps? Incidentally, like 2 days ago, the FinOps team at OpenText, we have our own FinOps team, of course, as well, did a presentation for engineering to talk about FinOps. And so the FinOps lead actually had a couple of slides where he also went through the stages of introducing FinOps. So I said, I'm just going to steal those slides and use them here. So this was one slide that he used, which I kind of liked. He said, okay, what is FinOps? FinOps is not finance and ops, it's finance and DevOps, right? So the dev word, he said, is the key element here, because in today's world, right, developers need to be agile, they develop in the cloud. That basically means we need to give them the keys to the clouds, which gives them a lot of power to provision things. And of course, with a lot of power comes a lot of responsibility. So we need to make sure that they don't blow up the cloud bill. That's essentially, I would say, the very most often the key issue here. You do development in the cloud, and all of a sudden you see, whoa, our cloud bill just explodes, and things go out of control. That's Virgil. But when you and I talked, you had some. I remember you had a little bit of reservations about this.
We've been
slide.
preparing
So,
the
yes.
session together, and I want to balance just a bit this sentence, like the dev is in the center, and it was dev and then DevOps and then FinDevOps and FinDevSecOps,
yeah.
and it could be quite long. I also had another version. We're talking to customers saying, okay, FinOps was created because it was really a mess regarding the costs. Like developers jump into the public cloud world, and it was like wonderland for them, and not taking care at all about the cost. And today we do have real challenge, and this is where FinOps is all about. At the first step, at least, like it's taking the cost under control again, because there was a mix and match between all you can eat, and in fact, it was all you can pay. And this could have been a real disappointment for some companies who start using the cloud, and with the idea of it's going to be cheaper, it's flexible, we do other reactivity, and one of the dream that was it's going to be cheaper. It could, but not always. And this is why FinOps was created in fact. So as a reminder, it is a practice that comes with a framework, and according to your maturity, you will pick and choose some element of it, and you will focus first on some capabilities. But things that are always coming is those 3 phases. Again, this is just a reminder, I think, for the audience. So it's inform first, understand and get the data and understand them, then optimize, because we definitely have an issue about the cost. And then it will be operate, because it's not only 3 phases, but it's definitely a loop that will go over and over again regarding the maturity we have. Usually we're talking about 3 of them: crawl, walk, and run. I also saw on the field with some customer pre-crawl that they were really in their day one regarding FinOps. So just wondering how to set things up, and who could be the personage, would they find a central team or not. But it's always 3 phases and a maturity. And this is something you can identify also in the use cases, depending on where you are on your journey about public cloud usage or on the FinOps implementation. You will be maybe interested in one piece or the other one. So again, it's great responsibility. I agree. It's a shared responsibility around all the core persona, including in the FinOps team today. And just a tiny note about the latest release that has been pushed a couple of months ago. It's now included sustainability. this is also why we included this in the agenda today, and also allies a new persona like the IT asset management or the IT service management guys, because it's today extended to a broader audience. It's no longer the digital native or only the digital business unit in your organization. Everyone can now use the cloud public, and you want to extend it. So it's also bringing new tasks, new compliance rules and stuff like that. So again, it's as simple, and with the maturity, you will add more and more. Joe, a word on this 10,000 meter foot view.
Meter, you're switching to the metric. I think this is UKI. I googled it because I wasn't sure, but it said it's the UK uses a feet, but I'm not sure about Ireland basically. Oh yeah, and I made the slide. I'm in the US. We use feet here, so yeah, 10,000 feet view. So it kind of corresponds to what Virgil, of course, talked about as well. This is kind of a little bit diving into what we're going to focus on this particular webinar. So these two questions, but answers from those specific personas, right? Because how much am I spending means something different that for a CEO, and it means for like an engineering manager or an individual engineer, right? And we'll see how you create different views for these particular personas. So that's cloud spend visibility. What am I spending it on? At the engineering level, that's usually quite easy to figure out, right? Because you'll see with our reports that show you, okay, what types are you using? Types in the sense of instance types in the cloud and whatnot. But it gets harder and harder as you move up in the chain, right? Cost allocation at the highest level is basically to BUs, business units. So we'll see how that works as well. And then the last one, should I be spending that much? So it can be that you're spending too much, but it also can be that you're spending not enough, right? Maybe for what you want to do, you need to spend more, but it's optimization in some way, shape, or form. So changing what you're doing, looking forward in the future, so that your spend is more, I would say, aligned with what your particular business happens to be and what goals you want to achieve. All right. So I think if no one has run away by now, that means probably these questions are like spot on. So let's just maybe start with our first persona here. So I need a consolidated view of the organization-wide cloud spend. So when we did a little persona exercise, maybe you picked out the CXO, CFO. That was indeed the right pick. Organization-wide means that if we basically switch to the demo here, I'm going to essentially show you a dashboard, right? Because what a persona like this typically wants to see is our high-level dashboards. And the demo that we're using today is actually built on a real dashboard that we built with customers. Most of the, if not all, but most of the demo views that we're going to use today are actually demo views that we took from our library. So we built regularly reports together with customers. So we have a little library, and then in the preparation for this webinar, I actually picked a couple that I figured would work well for this particular setting. So this dashboard that we're looking at today is actually used by a CEO somewhere in the EMEA region to look at that organization-wide cloud spend. So I'm going to just quickly walk you through it, and then if we have time left in the last portion, the last 30 minutes, we can talk a little bit about the technicalities behind it, right? Because creating a dashboard like this, there are various ways how you can do it, and as we have learned a little bit by doing these things, there are ways to do it that are not so good, and there are ways to do it that are better, I would say, in terms of flexibility if things change in the organization and whatnot. But let me walk you through it first. So obviously, spend at the highest level, at the level of the organization. For today's session, we are using Advantage Bank. This is like a fake organization that we're all often using in our demos. That has 4
obviously we
units.
can't share the real name of the
Yes,
customer that you mentioned earlier, so there's some privacy there. This
is literally what I did. I took the reports, I changed the names, and I plugged it into our demo environment, and now it's using our own demo data, of course. But it's a really great example because, as you will see, it's super simple, but it already conveys a lot of data that is really useful for people at that level. So at the highest level, how are the BUs spending? And here we can actually see it's roughly 25, 25, 25. And of course, you can drill down on each BU individually. And then also an overview, how are we spending over the cloud providers that we have, right? And it could be Azure and it just AWS. That's what this particular customer had, but can also be OCI, Google, and whatnot. Then if we scroll down, so they wanted a spend, and this is, of course, this is all built in our dashboard builder, right? So this is in a way all custom. We do ship with a couple of templates, but we almost always see that customers say, yeah, but I want this and I want to see this. So in the last 30 minutes, I can also show you, if there's interest in that, how basically you add widgets to the dashboard, how that portion works. But so here a breakdown of the spend for AWS, with here a time series view as well, where you can see over the 4 business units how things evolve. And then here, very interesting, a view per cloud, how well we are using rate optimization assets, right? Effective savings rate. I hope most of you are familiar with this visual. I think you know what ESR stands for, right?
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So, but I'm trying to remember the formula. The formula, if I remember correctly, is your savings, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the savings you make, that's in the numerator, divided by what the things would have costed if you wouldn't have had the savings plan or the ROI, or basically so the on-demand price. So that ratio, that is your effective savings rate. It got introduced, I think, like about a year ago. There was a session on FinOps X. I think it was Prosper Ops who like invented it, and then they shared it with the community. So we're also, of course, implementing it right now, as you can see it here. And this is a really low ESR. But here on the dashboard, you can see why that is, right? Because yellow means here it's all on demand. Purple means it's covered by a savings plan or reserved instance. So we can see very, very poor coverage here. So one conclusion, of course, could be that, hey, we need to, you know, if you look at the day-by-day view here, it's maybe less than 10% here, a lot less. So takeaway could be we need to invest more in savings plans. Also specifically for Azure, ESR 0 here. And that's because all the spend here, as you can see here, is on demand. So we're not even using reserved instances or savings plans at all for Azure, but the spend is less, right? So you could actually say, okay, even though we're not doing anything for Azure, because we're spending more in AWS, what we're going to do first is an internal campaign to make everybody aware that, hey, there's this thing called savings plan or reserved instances. You know, we need to start using this. Or if you don't have a FinOps team yet, as a CXO, this dashboard could basically make you instate a FinOps team that can then start focusing on reserved instances and savings plans. Also, these kind of personas are typically interested in high-level trends. So I'm just going to switch. We were in the previous month view here, so I'm just going to switch to previous year. So in our solution, you can really store a lot of data, as you can see, that allows you to go back really, really far in time. And that visualizes or helps you to visualize trends like, hey, look how the spend spikes here. That may be by accident. Maybe that was unplanned, or maybe that was planned. Maybe there was a cloud first initiative that started here that made your cloud spend like this, right? And here we can actually see that for Azure, we only started using it quite recently, which is why if we scroll up again, you know, the proportion of Azure is that small when you look at it over the course of a year. Again, very, very, I would say very, very simple, very easy to create also in our solution. But these are the kind of views that you need at that level. How are my business units doing? What are they spending things on? And also, you know, how well are we saving? That's also something that's really useful to convey at those highest levels. So,
and something I really want to highlight here is that it is a dashboard for someone really high in the organization. So probably maybe not all the clue about technical stuff, technical name or type of services you can have in the cloud, and maybe tag names won't really talk to him. So this is why here we are talking and presenting things using business unit of its organization. So nothing coming from the cloud provider, in fact, because it's not the account name that are quite techy. It's not the long list of tags you can have. This is made definitely for this persona, with the level is looking at in the organization, so that they will understand quickly what it's all about, and with the view that it does care about. And in fact, when even having a look at the train over the past year, it can be normal not to have too much saving plans yet, because you are only really using the cloud for less than a year. So it could take times, but it will resonate with him because it is what is used to look at the business unit level, not the tags, not the customer accounts, not the type of instances you have in the cloud. And this is what is key, and what Joe mentioned, that is it's easy to set up in the solution today. There was some work behind it, but this type of dashboard is definitely made for high-level people in the organization, and this is enough for them. Then they might be asking people working for them to dive into it and to improve the situation.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe.
No, yeah, totally agree. And I like when you said, so this type of persona doesn't care about technical things, which I fully agree with. So, and that starts to change a little bit if you, I would say, start descending to the, let's go one level lower, right? Because the next use case was, I need to track cloud consumption for my department. So again, department, we're using that loosely here. It can be a cost center. You can call it a BU. We've seen customers call it a P&L. And there's also then next to a cost center, there's also a profit center, P&L, profit loss. But yeah, someone who is responsible for a particular portion of the business. Can be a product line. And of course, in our demo story, it was one of those 4 business units. So what we had retail, corporate banking, e-commerce, and I'm forgetting the first one now. But in our demo story, Bob here is in charge of the corporate banking business unit. So we also create a dashboard for him, and I'm also going to show you what that looks
just
like.
hold on, Claire. We continue to watch
the
the webinar chat or the Q&A session. We're trying to monitor it at the same time, but not sure we will see what's happening. So if there's anything, please help us.
I absolutely will. So just to remind everybody, because we've got more people joined us, please do put questions into the Q&A or into the chat. So as we go through these different personas, if there's anything that resonates with you or anything specific that you want to ask about, please do pop that in there. And Joe and Virgil are absolutely prepared and ready to answer those questions live. So don't feel that you have to wait to the end. We didn't have any questions from the attendees about that particular persona, but I think just to make sure that I'm understanding it and just to recap what we've seen, that first persona is all about how the C-level view their costs. So the CFO, the CXO, and then as we move down the organization, I guess the level of detail is going to increase.
Correct.
Yes.
Go ahead, Virgil.
No, this is it, and this is what the inform phase is about. In fact, is to provide everybody with the data they need, and in a way that will understand it and be able to take action. So at the higher level, maybe it will just be to make a phone call or send an email to someone and say, okay, we do have an issue. Could you please have a look? And the more investigation you will do, the more detailed information you will need so that you will take real technical action. So this is the inform, making sure that everybody has access to the right information and be able to be accountable for what they are using or what they are responsible of. So yeah, again, you're completely right, Claire.
Fantastic, thank you. So no questions at the moment, but as we've said, we'll pause after each persona just to have a chance for discussion if we do have any questions. And let's hear a little bit about Bob and Bob's department.
Yeah. So as we're descending, so in the chain of management, so we can also see that very often people do start caring about more technical breakdowns. So the report that we create for Bob, of course, and this comes from another customer, his name was not Bob, but it is a real report again that we're using here. It's also again very, very simple. It shows him, and we're in the view here for this month. So at the top here, you can see like the time slicer. So looking at here, the cost spent so far in the month. So all he wanted to see was, hey, show me the evolution of my spend together with like a nice pie chart as well for the totals, but for the services in the cloud that we use across the clouds in this case. So database, compute, block storage, object storage, network, right? So it starts to get a little bit more technical for this particular persona. Now, another thing that this persona very often will want to do is verify their chargeback report. So in the large organization where you have business units like this, what very often happens is that Bob has his cloud spend being charged back to him, right? So he spends things in the cloud. as we can see here. And at the end of the month, typically a couple of days later, because you have to, map the discounts and whatnot. So let's say at the 15th of every month, you can basically do a chargeback for the previous month to a business owner like this. So they will get some sort of an invoice, typically not a PDF, but something in a system somewhere where Bob can see, hey, my budget just got hit with, I don't know, 45,000, blah, blah, blah. A nice FinOps solution allows Bob to then basically use his own system and say, well, I want to check that where that money comes from, right? So I'm going to show that here, where Bob can simply say, I want to, this view is for the previous month so far, but I want to use look at the previous month now. And I want to see like what my spend was. And that amount, of course, should correspond to what Bob is being charged back to, right? So discount reallocation and everything, that should all be factored into this dashboard, so that when Bob looks at this view and sees 45,912, that corresponds what he has been charged back, what hit his budget for that particular month, right? So making that happen, so making realizing it so that everybody always sees the same dollar amounts or euro amounts or pound amounts up until the digit after the comma or the point, the period. It's challenging. And initially, of course, we were struggling with it, but I think we finally nailed it down also with our solution, because with our solution, everything is stored in one data lake. Not just the cost data, by the way, but also the carbon data that we'll talk about later, which allows us to make really cool correlations. But because everybody goes to that same data lake, in SaaS, of course, it's a SaaS solution. We're actually looking at a full screen web browser here, because everybody pulls the data from the same data lake and uses the same SQL queries, people always end up with the same amount. So once we were able to hit that milestone, that really, solved a lot of issues where people said, hey, if I run this report, I don't get the same amount of what you, and there's always a lot of confusion and whatnot. But yeah, we were able to move past that hurdle. So, yep.
And yeah, this is an interesting point, Joe, by the way, because when I'm talking to people in the field, not all of them are already at the point where they're doing chargeback. When the maturity is more crawler, they are working a lot on the showback. It's all about taking the information, the data, the billing data, and provide them to their user. This might already have an impact on the improvement about the usage. This is what we call the pre-use effect. Like if you show in real time the money you're spending, maybe you will slow down a bit because you know that the end of the month might be quite long for you. But and then and only then they are switching to the chargeback, meaning that they will send internal invoice to the team and department. So not everybody is doing that. True. If people might agree, they can put in the chat if they are already doing chargeback or not. That's an interesting point, because definitely there's a switch mode into that, and not everybody is doing it yet. But then obviously when it's in place, you need also to provide the ability to check that the invoice you receive is correct.
Yep. And let's try to draw the line between showback. I would say, if you give Bob this report, right, that we're looking at this screen here, we're already giving him showback, right? Because he can actually go to the last month and see, oh, what did I spend? Oh, it's 45. That's more than, maybe he can compare to the previous month before that. We could create a widget for that as well, and he could see, oh, there's an upward trend here. I need to get that under control. And then I would say chargeback, it would be when you take that money for the last month, and you actually either, as you say, you send an invoice, or you give Bob a budget on a yearly basis, and then you say, okay, hey, every month, whatever you spend, you're gonna see that reduced from your budget, and you need to do what you want to do, what you're tasked to do with that budget. Would you agree with that? I'm trying to find a separation between where we start talking, where showback starts to become chargeback, basically.
Quiet people today, or the chat is not working pretty well. So I hope it's working, and we'll have more reaction later on.
Maybe we can ask if somebody could just type test into the Q&A box and convince us that this is working, because I'm not seeing any questions at the moment. But it would be really good to hear from people. You're taking some time out of your afternoon We can see you, Roland and Stefan. Thank you so much. Peter got you there as well. Really appreciate that. And I'm sure Virgil and Joe would love to answer questions as well. But yeah, fantastic to see that we are live. We can see your input. So appreciate that. Sorry, Joe and Virgil, back to you.
Yeah, let's keep moving. So we had, what's his name? Daniel. We had Bob. Oh yeah, this one. My engineers need visibility into their cloud spend and optimization opportunities. So kind of, like I said, my engineers, that kind of gave away the persona there, right? Because that would typically be an engineering manager. And this is an important one, I feel, because I'd say, because everybody knows that engineering is responsible for most of the cloud spend, that's how it usually is. There's always a lot of pressure on engineering, right? Engineering constantly hears, hey, you guys spent way too much in the cloud, blowing all the bill. You need to start fixing this. But if you don't give them the tools to actually do this, you create more frustration than anything else in the organization. So what we're going to take a look at now are a couple of screens that and we're going to work through a little scenario. And we will see how our solution actually helps typically engineering managers, but also individual engineers to keep their spend under control. And a very first feature that we have in that area are called our spend limits. Very simple concept, super simple. You take a cloud account, and what's nice for the engineering world is that here, unlike when you need to start allocating costs to business units and whatnot, and you need to do cost allocation, it's all like rather complex to solve. Like engineers typically, not always, but usually think from the perspective of a cloud account, right? Because they've been giving a task. They say, hey, develop this thing. Oh, but we need to test it. Okay, it's, here's a cloud account for AWS, here's a cloud account for Azure, here's a cloud account for Google, right? Needs to work in all the clouds. And make sure that for each account, you only spend, I don't know, 20K per month or 20K per year, whatever you want to set the limit to, right? But it is usually, they think from, at least for sure in an organization, the teams think from the perspective of the accounts that they're given. And then on each account, with each account, they're supposed to spend a certain amount of money. Not supposed to, allowed to spend this. If they didn't spend it by the end of the month, that's fine. They don't need to exactly spend that amount. But what we do
is... This is what I was talking about when I was saying it was a mess.
What we do is we set limits, cloud spend limits. And the clouds, individual clouds have this functionality, but if you have multiple clouds, of course, that means that you need to go do it in AWS, in Azure, and GCP, right? You go in there and you say, okay, per account, if this spend is reached, send out an alert. It's a very, very simple concept. And what's nice about a third-party solution, of course, or what can be nice if you have multiple clouds, is that you have that single pane of glass, where now you can do it in one fashion for all the clouds. Now,
the idea is really simple, is that usually engineers are not looking at the cost all the time or every hour. So they need some help to focus on their job and be warned that something is going wrong. So this is exactly what we are saying here is, okay, it's nice to have a dashboard and to be able to manage the expense and to report it and to understand. But our day-to-day job is to work and develop or provide a service to customers. So we won't check the cost all the time. There's simple mechanism that can be put in place, like just receiving an email when you are approaching or already over budget. This is something you can define, and this is what we will show there.
Yep. And this is what the mail looks like. So again, super simple. And this is a rather large, so I took an account to generate this with that has a really large spend limit, 300K per month. We don't have a lot of accounts like that in our demo environment. But the concept is super simple. You get the email, it says you, hey, you have a limit set on this account and you've surpassed it essentially here. So we are 355 when we receive this email, so you're 55 over budget versus your limit. And very important, this email also contains a forecast, right? Now, what we typically do is we don't set only the limit for the end of month spend, but we also set a limit, like let's say for the 50% spend of an account, so that in the middle of the month, hopefully in the middle of the month, people get that email. Now, if they get it on the 5th, you already know something is wrong, because that means they've reached their 50% spent already on the 5th of the month. And then that mail will also contain like a forecast here that says, hey, if you keep doing what you're doing, at the end of the month, you're going to be here, right? So that is indeed like as Virgil said, not a slap in the face, but like a gentle nudge for the engineer to be, if the mail comes too soon, to go and check things out, right? The first step, as we'll see, there's a progression of things that can be done here. But usually when they receive a mail like this, and when they see, oh, I'm going over budget, the first step is always, okay, let's go to the reports and let's go check it out. So we're going to take a look at what that looks like.
The first step is usually, I don't believe you.
Yeah, but then they come here, and then of course, yeah, they have to. So here, this is our reporting section for engineers. So this is not the dashboarding section. These are two different modules. In the dashboarding section, basically the sky's the limit. You can create your own widgets. Again, we provide some templates, but we don't exactly know what your CEO or CFO will want to see. So we give you basically templates and then building tools that you can build, and it's all easy. I can do it. I've done it. So it's these reports here for engineering, they are out of the box. So they're account oriented, but they do the trick for engineering. And what's really nice is that there's automatic access control built in. So the FinOps team will basically decide, Joe and Virgil, they're part of a specific team. So that team uses these cloud accounts, so they can only see that group that they belong to can only see these and these particular, the spend from those accounts, and also the optimization opportunities from those accounts. So you don't have to worry about people seeing too much spend from other. Everybody always only sees the spend that they're supposed to see. So we'll look at the reports in a second. Here's the cloud cost limit reports. So here I'm in that limit for 300K. This is our demo account that we're using here. And here, so yeah, here we can see we're over the limit. The blue line is the limit here. And looking at this is the history, of course. Every bar here is a month. And we can see there was a little oopsie here, but we got it under control. And then spend was under control for a long time. But now in the previous month, we were over just a little bit. We were trying to get it under control, but obviously it's not, whatever we're trying to, it's not working because we're still way going out of budget. So a view like this, that would typically be a view where people would want to like start digging a little bit deeper to see, okay, what's going on there, right? What is there, did a savings plan expire, or did we start using some different instance types? There's various things here that can go wrong.
Joe, we've got a question here which I think relates to this screen a little bit. So Kevin's asking about the level of granularity that you can apply to cloud cost limits. So can you apply them organization-wide, department, team? Could you apply them to a single engineer or developer? What level of granularity can you apply?
So yes, and I know the answer to that one. Thank you, Kevin. So in our solution at the moment, it's only at the level of the account, but at the other things that you're talking about, that is on the roadmap. So we are working on that to have spend limits, even on the BU level, as you could see earlier, to have spend limits on there as well. But we started with, I would say the most urgent thing, and given the fact that the developers are doing most of the spend, and that usually the issue is that they don't have a really good control and feel of what's going on. The first thing that we wanted to have the spend limit on is at the account level, but the other things are coming. I'm gonna switch to, all right. So we established there's an issue, all right, then the engineer can come to the reporting section. Again, this report looks different than the dashboard. That's because these are our canned reports for engineering. So again, these are there out of the box. This one I use a lot, spend by charge type, because this report will basically reveal here in the last 2 months if a savings plan had terminated and maybe the team forgot to renew it. But we can see here purple is savings plan engaged. We can see that's not the case. There's really no, I would say, from the perspective of charge types, there's really nothing that stands out here that would indicate that anything is wrong with savings plans or reserved instances. The second candidate that I always go to is this one here, spend by instance type. And we're looking at the AWS reports here, but we have similar reports for Azure and Google with OCI on the roadmap. Is spend by instance type. Again, you recognize the pattern of the graph, right? It's the same account that we're looking at here. So I'm using a filtered here. I'm in a filtered view for this account. And here we can, of course, see a different story. Here we clearly see that there's a huge increase in the light blue area. And if I zoom in here, I can see that's T2 extra large. So there's an increase in that particular type. And in general, we can see that I would say 75%, what is that? 80% of the spend in this account is generated by T3s and T2s, as we can see here by the color coding. So it also means that there's two routes that we can go here now. We can go and we can start cleaning up waste, and the engineers can do that themselves, and that's what we're going to show next. But there's also the possibility of purchasing savings plans and reserved instances. And if we want to use those, then of course we can see here that a good type to show on would be the T3 and the T2 instance families, either with like an EC2 plan or a compute plan. Do that, right? So again, a super simple scenario where we started from an email, an alert, a heads up, hey, your spend is moving in the wrong direction, giving people then very simple reports where they can see, okay, is it a one-off thing, or is that like a trend here? It's a trend, okay. Let's see what's going on here. And then reports where they can see, usually do like what we call like a level 1 up to level 2 investigation to see what's going on with their spend.
What is also interesting there is the way you investigate the issue, in my opinion, because this might be different according to the people you are talking to. But as we faced once that we just forgot to renew a saving plans, you start first looking at saving plans to see if the issue is coming from that. So we learn from the past. We do have now best practices, and we apply them. So the investigation is obviously done in this way. First, have a look at the saving plans. We did it once. No. Then we can have a look at maybe some new usage or technical challenges. But that's interesting because every customer we're meeting, they have their own best practices. They are learning, they are improving the way they're working, or even using the dashboards and select the one and build the view with the right filter they want, because it have to match their knowledge, their maturity, and the way they're working. But again, you did it on purpose. First, check the saving plans, and then investigate the technical instances. So that's interesting.
And then from here, yeah, so there's just two routes. So as the team itself, we can go and see, okay, of this light blue zone, I think that was the T2, are there systems that we provisioned for something and that maybe we forgot to clean up, right? So also we will show what that looks like. So we're switching modules here now. So this is the insights module, and in the insights module, there's two sub-modules, one called user optimization, one called rate optimization here. And this module is shared by the FinOps team and engineering teams. It just depends who you are. So basically what you see depends on who you are again. So if you're in the FinOps team here, and I'm logged on here as someone from the FinOps team, Mary Smith, she has access to all the cloud accounts. So she will see the optimization opportunities for the whole organization. We can see it's a whole bunch. It's up to $300,000 of savings here per month. If we work through all these line items, every line item here is either, if it's red, it's an idle instance, means it has the system hasn't been doing much in the last 2 weeks from a CPU perspective or RAM perspective. So maybe it's a candidate to shut it down. Modify means there was activity, but the level of activity doesn't correspond to the resources that the system has. The system is typically over-provisioned. So the instance is underutilized. Underutilized, over-provisioned, two sides of the same coin. But these need to be right-sized. So you're not going to shut them down, but you're going to see, okay, can we switch to another type here? So we can see here, lots and lots of things that we can work on. Again, this is at the organization view, you're usually going to see this. Look here, 4,000 almost items that you can work on. But what we typically see is that you can get, I won't equate it with the Pareto rule. I won't say that 20% of the actions will correspond to 80% of the savings, but it wouldn't be far off, right? If you just focus on, in terms of numbers, I would say the top 10 in every category of waste, and there's 3 categories as I will see, you'll already get a long way in cleaning up waste. And again, if you log onto this screen, not as someone from the FinOps team, but as this persona, this engineering manager, you're only going to see the optimization opportunities for your own teams here. So I'll walk you through the first step off. This is a whole demo where we show for every category how you can walk through it. I think I'll just walk you through the first step. Maybe I'll show two. I'll show two steps. I'll show how you clean up an idle one, and then I'll also do underutilized in the same family, and I'll explain a little bit what that means. So the lowest hanging fruit, and this is kind of what I like about this implementation here, is that you can say, okay, I'm going to start with the lowest hanging fruit possible. And that is the systems that have to be terminated, right? You can see here we sort them highest to lowest. This is for AWS in this case. So every line is a system that was detected to be, massive. Well, it was idle, so massively over provisioned, you can say. I clicked on it. You can click on it to get a little bit more information. We can see it's costing $2,000 right now. It's an R6, so $2,000 per month. And in the last 14 days, that's our default look back without additional data. It's 14 days. It only has been used for 1% CPU utilization. Right? If you install CloudWatch, by the way, we can pull in the memory information here as well. You can get a little bit more context on if the memory was completely not used as well. So if you're an engineering manager, you will know, oh, this is AWS test 01. Oh, crap, that was for a test last week. I forgot to shut that off. Okay, you would go right away to the console and shut that down. If you look at this screen as the FinOps team, you won't necessarily know, okay, AWS test 01 in account ABC, who owns that account, but you can use tags here, you pull down tags. And there is an owner ID here that we have in our demo environment. So you could use that ID to find the person who owns this system and have them send them an email or like a Teams message. Says, hey, can you please shut this thing down? Because or take a look at it at least just to see if you still need this. Right? Work on the top 10, or you could say everything above 500K, that's about 10 systems here of potential savings. So do that. That's already going to make like a huge impact. And then switch to underutilized. So that's slightly higher hanging fruit. I'm going to give one example of it. For underutilized, an important distinction is what you're going to change the system to. Does that stay in the same instance family or does it cross instance families? I'm just going to explain that with an example here. So this is a system where you can save $900 a month. Okay, if we resize it, we can say, okay, let's take a look. So you click on it. And it's an X1E 4X large. So it's a 4X right now, and it's recommended to go to a 2X. You can click on these tiles to make simulations about what the load will look like. This gives us really good savings for better performance. So yeah, we're going to go with this one. But here, very important. So we stay in the same family. Like everything before the dot indicates the family. It's X1E, X1E, X1E. So whatever change we make, we're not changing the family. And that's important because if you start making changes to systems, you may actually hurt your utilization rate if you have reserved instances or savings plans that apply to the system. Now, how do you know that? Again, we try to make it easy for you to figure that out. You just click here on the I, that we pull up if this system has RI coverage or savings plan coverage. And here, if you stay in the same family, if the top line says 0, it's safe, right? That means no RI is applying to the system. There's a savings plan applying to it, as we can see here, but savings plans can tolerate changes if you stay in the same family. That's why the differentiation is important. So this is definitely low-hanging fruit. So we can just go ahead here, open the console, and go and change this system. I can show you across instance families as well, but if there's interest in that, we'll do that in the last 30 minutes. But I'm just giving you like a quick walkthrough. Again, all still in the scenario where we started with the email. Heads up, something is wrong. Your spend is going out of control. Going to the limit, seeing, okay, it's something systematic. Let's go take a look at it. Going to the reports, figuring out, okay, there's an explosion. It's not because the savings plan expired, right? We may buy new plans, but it's not because something's changed there. So there may be more waste that we're accumulating, and then coming here and seeing, okay, there are in fact a lot of recommendations to shut things down or to modify things. And as an engineer, you can actually work through the list here. You can do it live, or you can put things in the backlog so that when you do PI planning, you can go through it. Several ways how you can do it. But yeah, we bring the information again to the right persona. What this persona cannot do, usually the engineering manager is buying savings plans, right? That's another solution. We'll talk about that in a minute. That's usually reserved, that only the FinOps team has the authority to do that. So that's what we're going to take a look at next. But yep.
Okay, Joe, I'll just jump in at this point because we'll give people a couple of minutes to type some questions if anybody's got any questions on that. But for Jill, I'll maybe ask this to you. So Joe's highlighted there what look like amazingly quick and easy savings, but there was also the mention of rates optimization. So Virgil, I just wonder if you want to talk about that a little bit more as well.
Well, it will come with the maturity, because Joe mentioned it. Low-hanging fruit is the just shut down what is not used, like you are doing home, shutting down the light when you're leaving. So it's really quick and easy, and this is where everybody starts. We are overspending. Just please clean what is not used, and this is usage optimization. So level 1. Then we can switch to rate optimization. And this is where you will need, in my opinion, more data, not more indicator, but for a longer period, because you will need to analyze how you are doing with the cloud, what you are really using, and where you can commit. And this is I would say, the dilemma of the public cloud, because on one side, everybody's moving to the cloud because it's flexible, it's reactive. On the other hand, if you really want to optimize your cost, then cloud providers are asking you to commit for millions or for 1 or 3 years. So you must be sure about what you are doing. And by the way, they realized that it was a challenge for their customers. So now they allow customers to say, okay, I did mistake. I want to review my saving plans and press a button and cancel it. So it's really difficult to understand the saving plans that you will have, to understand your usage, and is it really a good idea to commit or not for this type of instances. So it will require an higher maturity in your cloud usage and knowledge. So definitely, first, easy usage, then probably the rate optimization. And once you've done that, as you mentioned, it will also impact the usage, because you won't apply the technical optimization in the same way. You will check the saving, you will check the performance, and you now also have to check that you will stick to the plan you define with the FinOps engineer, that by a saving plans. Otherwise, if you switch to, on demand, you will ruin everything. So it's not that easy, and it's obviously a good idea to have an assistant that will guide you through this.
Fantastic, thank you.
That brings us seamlessly to the next. Thank you for setting that up.
Yeah, we prepare a bit. Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
Yep. I need to purchase. So use case, I need to purchase the most effective cloud rate optimization assets. Again, cloud rate optimization assets, there's 2 kinds. There's reserved instances and there's savings plans. And we do hope that everybody is a little bit familiar with this. I'm going to try to give like maybe a 30-second, and Virgil, correct me if I'm wrong here, but with reserved instances, you make this purchase commitment, so a pre-purchase commitment or commitment that you basically make. But it's expressed in resource-oriented terms. So for instance, you say, hey, AWS, I promise you that for the next year, I'm going to run, 100 systems of type T3 extra large, as we've seen. So it's expressed in a number of systems and a type. You get really fantastic discounts if you make that promise to AWS, but it's also a little bit more complexity than a savings plan. With a savings plan, it's the same idea, but you express the promise in terms of money. You essentially say, hey, AWS, I promise that for the coming year, I will spend, I don't know, $50,000 per month with this account, for instance, right? You express the pre-commitment in a dollar or a euro or a pound amount. It's a little bit easier to work with, less risk for overcommitments with savings plans. But of course, you don't get the exact same. The discounts are not as high as you get with user instances. That's typically what we see when we do our where we go over the math at the end of the month. Now, what we actually go ahead, Virgil.
No, just be sure that you also have an eye on the clock. We have half an hour left.
Yep. Okay. So what I want to show you is the not this guy. Sorry.
Handsome guy, but not yet.
Yes, not yet. Where is it? That's David. He's coming in a minute. So it's complex, as Virgil said, and it requires a certain level of maturity. And we do our best with the solution to make it easy. I'm going to show you a very simple example of what it could look like if you buy a savings plan for that account that we were looking at. So we're in the rate optimization module, commitment planners for savings plans. It's always nice to start from a recommendation. because that gives you, I would say, some certainty. It's a recommendation that comes from the vendor. But as we will see, the recommendation that comes from in this case AWS, they're almost always not suboptimal for what you want to do. And I'll give an example here. So here we have a suggestion for a savings plan for that account. Just click on it. And here we open up a view where we see the spend for the last 30 days. You can do 60 days as well for this particular account. So we see on the x-axis, these are the days. Y-axis, this is the spend per day. And the top line here, this is the spend for that account. You can kind of see it drops off in the weekends, and then it picks up again on the weekdays. The color coding, dark green means existing reserved instance covering. So it's good. There's a little bit of coverage, not a whole lot. So we could improve there. Fluo green, that means savings plan covering, right? So the first takeaway from this graph is that, okay, we can actually do really good stuff with savings plan or reserved instances, right? Because there's only a little bit of coverage and there's a lot of on-demand spend left, and the spend is kind of stable. So it is really easy to go out and buy a rate optimization asset here. You have to be careful though, because usually the recommendations that come from the vendor, the dotted line here, right, that represents how much of your spend will be covered if you just go with the recommendation as it came from AWS. That's what 100% means here, right? You're basically taking it at 100% face value. And we can see that almost 90% of the spend will be covered here. There is a danger here for overcommitments. We see that happening a lot where there is waste in this account, but that's not taken into account by the AI that AWS uses. And that if you purchase this much plan, you're actually going to commit into what we call the waste zone. You're going to essentially promise AWS that, hey, I'm going to pay you this amount of money, but portion of that money is actually spent that you should clean up first. You shouldn't promise AWS that you're going to continue to pay it. No, you should clean it up, and then you don't pay anything for it. That is what we're going to visualize here. So again, here very little coverage for savings plans, as we discussed. This little widget here is actually going to visualize the waste. So if I click here this widget, what we're doing is we're looking at the optimization. We're going to that previous report that we saw. We're filtering it in the same way for this particular account, for the type that the savings plan could apply to and whatnot. And we're looking at all the optimization opportunities. Remember, terminating or right sizing, and we're calculating how much of the spend is actually wasted, and we're visualizing that here. And we can actually see that if we can follow this recommendation, we would actually cover into the waste. We would cover 111% of our actual true spend that is not waste. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to commit less, and we visualize here a target zone. By default, it's 60 to 80. That works for most organizations. That's percent of the spend. That's what FinOps says you should aim for first. We can configure it, of course, and that's that blue bar here. So we want to see if we can bring our coverage into that blue zone while avoiding covering waste, essentially. And you do that with our what if modeler. So what I'm going to do here is this slider here. If I slide it to the left, I'm going to lower the bar, and you will see all the numbers adjusting here until we are not covering waste and we are in the zone. So with 80% here, that seems to be the sweet spot for me. I'm below the waste zone and I am in my target. So that is for me like the optimal coverage, and corresponds to only 65% of the original recommendation. So it said something like 20 something before here, hourly commitment. This is in the AWS UI where you put in your purchase configuration. 12.61, that's actually what you should put in when you purchase a plan. And you're going to have fantastically optimized savings plan for this particular account. So just an example of what we do in the product to try and make it as easy as possible for you and transparent as possible to buy these rate optimization assets, basically. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Virgil.
Oh, it's definitely not easy, and the more color you have on a graph, the more complex it is. So we can easily see here that if you don't study what the cloud are offering you, you might be in trouble or overspending anyway. So it's a good idea to take the time to analyze, to have a conversation not only to FinOps with the FinOps guy in the organization, but also maybe with the operation, because if it's a live environment, for your own customers. They might be involved and tell you, yes, we're going to use it for a long time or not, or talk to the engineers because maybe the project it's still there for 2 years. Maybe it will shut down in 3 or 6 months. So again, this is what the FinOps practice is about. It's making people talk to each other, have a common language, and be able to do some analysis and math together to maximize the cloud investment of the company. But again, one person doing it, it could be done. But asking others to join and maybe do some common reviews, it's a good idea because none of us have all the answers or all the information, especially when committing for the next 1 year or 3 years.
Yep, in this case,
it's 1 year. 1 year, Sam. Yeah.
And speaking of broader collaboration, so let's go to this, the handsome guy here. You could even indeed involve IT ops, and this brings us into what we usually call the proactive side of our FinOps story, where you can actually, specifically for what we call non-technical users, prevent them from overspending. So far, most of the things that we talked about are kind of reactive in nature, where we saw there's an issue, we try to figure out what it is, and then we take corrective actions to make sure it doesn't happen anymore in the past. But it's also possible to, for certain types of users, and I give a couple of examples, curate their access to the cloud. So make sure that they can only provision certain types that are never going to blow up the cloud bill. And just switching to, I'm going to show you what it looks like first. Then we're going to switch to GreenOps because I for sure want to do GreenOps as well. I'm going to skip this. So this is our self-service catalog. So imagine where are we a good example? Maybe a support engineer. Pre-sales engineer would also work. Pre-sales engineer needs to do a demo, check out a system to run a demo. Support engineer, an issue comes in for a specific version of the software, and she needs to quickly spin up a system in the cloud to go test this bug. The customer says, hey, this thing is not working. And the customer, of course, is on an older version, so she needs to quickly spin up that particular version and exact configuration to simulate the issues. For those types of use cases, what works really, really well is that you implement a self-service approach where you're going to put the service in a catalog and then have these people order these systems in a self-service way. So catalog view here. So several things here. Of course, we're going to focus on infrastructure services. So we need to provision, let's say it's a Node.js. That's what I've prepared here. So several offers are available here. One of the, I'm just going to scroll down here. Here's a Node.js 10 on CentOS 8.2. So let's say that that's what we need. You can see there's a price point here. We just simply request it. Now here, you can see all the details. You can nail that down in our solution so that really there's only a couple things that you can follow, or you can give them a lot of freedom, as we can see here, with a lot of fields to fill in. But what I want to stress here is that you can only provision this in 3 regions. And also, if we scroll down a little bit further, when it comes to the size, right, only these 7 pre-curated configurations of the system. So the where and the which resources that has been locked down, everything else, she has more freedom, right? And then if we scroll down, if you fill in all these things in, also for the tags, by the way, you can provide tags here so that when it gets provisioned, the tags are there, or so it's a compliant system. So here she can actually submit and then order the system. I'm just in 2 minutes going to walk you through how this is set up. So we are David now. So now I'm switching to this guy because this guy is an IT ops. He wants to enable people to do what we just saw. So he would basically just search for Node.js on all the marketplaces. This is our image aggregation. This means that our solution scans all the marketplaces of all the connected cloud providers, and you can see all the offerings. So you just use the text filter here to search for a Node.js. Several options. You just pick one. This one happens to run on Azure. And then here, you're going to apply the compliance first. You're going to say, nope, these regions are not allowed. It's only allowed in Central US, North Europe. And then what was on the offer? I think West US. And then for the size, you can say, no, that these are not allowed. I'm just going to, I think it was just the first 7. And then I think A1 was in there. I should definitely read it. But so these 7 here. and then pull up a pricing detail list. And here you can basically see, so this is where you see a matrix. These are the types, these are the regions. And here you can pre-check to make sure, right, that all these prices correspond to something that, even if they forget to shut it off for, for a while, it's not going to blow up the bill, right? So she cannot provision like a double extra large, unless, of course, you set up something with an approval workflow, but whatnot. So again, very, very simple way of setting up some curated systems for non-technical users and preventing bad things from happening before they actually happen. So
I just want one thing here. We can pause like for a couple of minutes. It is challenging sometimes to present this capability to customers because we're always facing really advanced user of public cloud. So they know what they are doing and they don't really need guardrails to work on. But the success of the cloud usage is that more and more users are coming and starting instances where with not the required knowledge. So this is why this capability is definitely there. And the value is to proactively prevent about doing, bad things in the cloud, because of course we are talking about the cloud. So you can only provide a subset of the clouders offering,
yeah.
and the one you selected. We noticed that we also selected the region, and that will be a good transition to talk about the carbon emission, because maybe you do care about the carbon emission. So you will only use some data center that are in the right zone for the electricity. So this is another option. And more, we are seeing customers say, okay, cloud is great. Now we do have hybrid environment. We are talking real services running for the customer. So we have all this list of compliances that should be applied about the naming convention, about the patching, about the way it is deployed, where it is deployed. So we must run some automation, not only start the service in the cloud, but make sure that then it is secure and resilient. So it is a good way to ensure that. So fine, if you do have really advanced cloud native users, they can keep going the way they are doing. But if you are on board less techies people, or if you have really regulations to put in place and make sure that you are doing the right business in the right way, this service offering portal might be the good solution. So don't be scared too fast if you think that is useless for you, and maybe there's a part of your organization where it will really make sense, and think twice about it.
Good. And you segued nicely into the GreenOps area. So
yep, and you're into your last 20 minutes.
Yep,
Joe and Virgil, just to let you know. So anybody who's with us, now's the time to get your questions in as well to make sure we can answer them within the time. Back to you, Joe.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead, Virgil.
No, you can go for it if you want.
No, we kind of said we weren't sure if because there is indeed this natural connection between carbon and FinOps. So we actually have a slide here where we said let's introduce the audience a little bit to the scopes that you have in the world of GreenOps, which is very, very particular for this particular issue. You want to talk to it, Virgil, or you want me to?
No, I can do it if you want, because
please.
Yeah, I push a bit to have this slide there and to talk about this topic because I really do care about it. And there is more and more connection between FinOps and GreenOps. So we are not only taking care about the cost today, but also to the carbon emission. For that, most of the customers are using the greenhouse gas protocol. It's a way to measure your emission. It defines everything, and more particularly defining 3 scopes. When applied to IT, Scope 1, it will only be, for example, the diesel generator that you have back to your data center. We are here talking about the cloud, so we don't care. If you're talking about this on-prem with your own equipment, you will have to add it, but usually it's not working because you rely more on electricity. And then the 2 other scopes are Scope 2 and Scope 3. Scope 2, it's all about the usage. So the power you will consume for the IT to make it run. Most of the time, it's electricity. And the scope 3 is the indirect emission. It will be the manufacturing, the transports, and the recycling of your equipment. And this applies for what you're consuming in the cloud and on-premise. Good news. When it's about the public cloud, your public cloud provider should give you one number. That is something you will have to add to your scope 3 metrics. And on his side, it should be consolidating his own scope 2 and scope 3. Well, in reality, this is not what's happening. And depending on the cloud provider, they are not sharing the same information and not taking into account the same data. So it's a real challenge. In my opinion, you can't really rely on what they're sharing. You can obviously take it, and if it's going down, you're improving. So it's a good way to start. But when it's talking about real regulation, and in the UE, we now have the CSRD in place, and everybody is making business with the European Union, whether it's in America and in the UK, they will have one day to comply with it. So this is why it is important. And we see more and more tender, including some question about this. So what we decided at OpenText and with Joe is to do the calculation for you, so that first it's one formula for every cloud provider. It is based on references that is coming from an external source, an independent source, and we will store all this information in the database, and you will be able to create a dashboard. So if we can just show the dashboard, Joe. And this is, again, an example of about what you're gonna be able to build. So we are taking the billing data. We know what you are using, how long you've been using it, and thanks to the external library, we can convert it into carbon emission and to the number you should add to your own scope 3. Everything is stored, everything is the same, so you will finally be able to compare AWS and GCP and Azure, no issue on that. And you can explain if tomorrow a regulator come and ask you, okay, where are those numbers coming from? You can explain it because you know the library, you know how it works, and you can really be confident about what you're reporting. Here, not only you do have the information about the public cloud, but you can have a look deeper where the 0.5 is. It's the off cloud or the on-prem, because we are OpenText. We are dealing with IT for, I don't know, 2-3 decades now, even more maybe. And we have all the required information to do exactly the same with your on-prem equipment. Because at the end of the day, you are a company, you may be running your business using an hybrid environment, and you need the carbon emission information, not only for the cloud, but also for the on-prem. And at the end, you need to consolidate. And the higher you get in the organization, the more consolidated view you will need. So this is definitely an example about an hybrid environment and with the emission we are doing. And again, we won't explain today because we only have 12 minutes left, how we can do it for the on-prem. If you're interested, we will be happy to run something about it and explain how it works and what the pieces are involved to make sure that you are reporting the right number, and you will also have the information to improve the situation. For the public cloud, when you're improving on the cost way, usually if it's usage optimization, it will impact the carbon emission. When it is rate optimization, no impact on the carbon emission because you are not really changing what you are using and the way you are using it. So focus on the usage if you want to improve your carbon emission. But again, shut down what you're not using is definitely the first action to take. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay.
And I think it's done.
While we do the Q&A, I'm gonna put this slide up. So are we gonna share the deck with the attendees? There's QR codes in here. TBD. So
I'm sure we will share the deck, and otherwise people can take their device phones and scan the QR code.
Yeah.
They are safe. We tested them, so no security issue about this. It's safe, and you will have more information.
So the first one brings you to our website. Second one, an email address where you can ask additional questions. And then here, just want to mention that we do run what's called a fast track program for FinOps, where under certain conditions, of course, you get access to the product for 3 months. You can just try it out. It comes with implementation support, so we help you. No one likes to read documentation, so basically we help you install it. We walk you through the install, and you can just work your way through some of the use cases that we discussed today. So if you scan that QR code, that brings you to a website where you can register for that fast track program if you're interested. So
Joe mentioned some condition. The main one and almost the most important one is that we want to make you happy using the solution and see the potential improvement you can make. And if you are really happy, then we are expecting you to share this with the rest of the world.
Yes, a success story. So
sounds like a good deal. So we'll just give it a couple of minutes to see if we have any questions there. I think even as attendees, it'd be interesting to know if some of the demos that Joe and Virgile have shared would help you address some of the challenges that you have. But we'll just give it a couple of minutes for people to kind of pop any questions into the chat. But if not, I think we can draw this to a close. People have been very quiet, but I think Joe and Virgile, that just means you did a fantastic job with your explanations.
Thank you.
And some very smooth demos as well.
We've been covering a lot of topic on the 3 phases and covering different maturity also. So maybe people will think about it later on. They can still keep in touch with us, ask questions, and by email, through you. And I'm glad you like it, and I hope it's the same for the audience.
Fantastic. And where can people find you if they did want to follow up with any questions? Would you prefer them to find you on LinkedIn? Okay, so we've got the email address there as well.
So yeah, the email address will definitely go to the PM team. So if you want to meet Joe, press 1, and if you want to reach me, press 2 and go on LinkedIn. It will be the easiest way, I guess.
Fabulous. And Stefan has just shared some feedback to say that was a really comprehensive overview, and thank you. So appreciate that. Stefan, thank you for being with us. Thank you to everybody who's been with us. So we will call that a wrap for today. Thank you to everybody who's attended. Thank you to Virgile and Joe and OpenText for sharing your knowledge. The contact information is there, so please do follow up with them. And I would say thank you as well to Be Executive Events for organising such a smooth session. And as we said, thank you all for giving your time to us today. We'll be sending a recording of the event out via email, so all the attendees will receive that. So if you only made part of the session as well, you can catch up. We'd love to get your feedback as well, and we really look forward to seeing you in one of the upcoming sessions as well. So thank you again to everybody who's been here. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Virgile, and everybody enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you all. Have a great day. Bye.